Imagine finishing your day with every important task completed without feeling exhausted. Now imagine the opposite. You wake up with good intentions, check your phone for just 5 minutes, answer a few messages, watch a couple of videos, and before you know it, half the day has disappeared. The surprising part is that most people aren't unproductive because they're lazy. They're unproductive because they spend their time fighting distractions instead of managing them. Hello everyone, I'm Clara, and welcome back. Today, we're going to explore one of the most valuable skills you can develop: productivity. But this isn't about working longer hours or filling every minute of your day with tasks. It's about working smarter, protecting your focus, and building habits that help you accomplish more while feeling less stressed. At the same time, you'll naturally improve your English. Throughout this lesson, you'll hear useful vocabulary, everyday expressions, and natural spoken English in context, helping you improve your listening, expand your vocabulary, and become more confident when communicating in English. Today, we'll discover 5 practical productivity tips that can completely change the way you work and study. Tip number 1. Stop managing time, start managing your attention. Tip number 2. Why small habits create big results. Tip number 3. The hidden productivity killer most people ignore. Tip number 4. How to stay focused in a world full of distractions. Tip number 5. Build a system that makes productivity feel natural. By the end of this episode, you'll not only have practical strategies to become more productive, but you'll also have improved your English through a real-life topic that you can immediately apply to your daily routine. So, let's begin with the first tip. Tip number 1. Stop managing time, start managing your attention. Imagine 2 people sitting at the same desk for 8 hours. The first person is busy all day. They answer emails, check social media, reply to messages, attend meetings, and constantly switch from one task to another. By the end of the day, they're exhausted. The second person works for only 5 focused hours. During that time, they avoid distractions, concentrate on one important task at a time, and finish their most valuable work before checking anything else. Now here's the question: who is more productive? Most people immediately think productivity is about time, but here's a surprising truth. Productivity has much more to do with attention than with time. Here's a useful English expression: stay on track. Native speakers use this expression when they mean to continue focusing on your goal without getting distracted. For example, I turned off my phone so I could stay on track while studying. It's a simple expression, but it's one you'll hear often in everyday English. Now let's talk about something psychologists have been studying for years. Many people believe they're good at multitasking. They answer a message while writing a report. They watch a video while studying. They check notifications every few minutes while working. It feels productive, but research suggests something different. Your brain isn't actually doing several demanding tasks at the same time. Instead, it's rapidly switching from one task to another. Every switch has a cost. Your brain needs a few moments to refocus, and those small interruptions quickly add up. Imagine reading a book. Every 2 minutes, someone taps you on the shoulder and asks a question. Could you still understand the story? Probably, but it would take much longer and you'd remember less. That's exactly what constant notifications do to your brain. They interrupt your attention before it has time to settle into deep focus. Psychologists often call this attention residue. When you stop one task to begin another, part of your attention stays behind with the previous activity. Even though you've opened a new document or started a new conversation, your mind hasn't completely caught up yet. That's one reason you may feel busy all day without accomplishing much. Let's connect this to learning English. Imagine you're listening to an English podcast. After 30 seconds, you check Instagram. A minute later, you answer a message. Then you return to the podcast. Did you really practice listening? Not completely. Your ears heard the English, but your attention was somewhere else. And attention is where learning happens. Here's a challenge I'd like you to try. Tomorrow, choose one important task. Before you begin, turn your phone upside down. Close unnecessary tabs on your computer. Silence notifications. Then work on that one task for 25 uninterrupted minutes. You'll probably notice something interesting. At first, your brain may feel uncomfortable. It wants stimulation. It wants to check messages. It wants something new. But if you resist those urges for a few minutes, your concentration usually becomes much stronger. This is when you enter what many experts call deep work, a state where you're fully focused on one meaningful task. And that's where your best thinking happens. Successful writers, scientists, programmers, artists, and entrepreneurs often protect their attention very carefully. Not because they have more hours than everyone else, but because they understand that attention is one of their most valuable resources. Here's something worth remembering. You can always earn more money. You can always learn new skills, but you'll never get today's time back. So instead of asking, how can I work longer? Try asking, how can I protect my attention while I work? That one question can completely change your productivity. Because productive people don't simply manage their schedules, they manage their focus. And once you learn to protect your attention, you'll be surprised by how much you can accomplish in less time. Tip number 2. Small habits beat big motivation. Imagine two friends who both decide to become more productive. The first friend is incredibly motivated. They buy a new notebook, they download 5 productivity apps, they create the perfect schedule. They promise themselves they'll completely change their life starting tomorrow. The second friend does something much less exciting. They decide to wake up just 15 minutes earlier. They write tomorrow's 3 most important tasks every evening. They spend 20 minutes reading instead of scrolling through social media before bed. At first, these habits seem almost too small to matter. But 6 months later, guess who's become more productive? Usually, it's the second person. Not because they had more talent, not because they were more intelligent, but because they understood one simple truth. Consistency beats intensity. Here's a useful English expression. Take it one step at a time. Native speakers use this expression when they mean don't try to do everything at once. Focus on one small step, then the next. For example, learning English can feel overwhelming, so just take it one step at a time. This expression perfectly describes how real productivity works. Now, here's something fascinating. Our brains love routines. When you repeat the same behavior again and again, your brain begins to automate it. Think about brushing your teeth. Do you have to remind yourself how to do it every morning? Probably not. You simply do it. The habit has become automatic. Psychologists often call this automaticity, the point where a behavior requires much less mental effort because you've repeated it so many times. The goal isn't to force yourself forever. The goal is to repeat a good habit until it becomes part of who you are. Let's connect this to learning English. Imagine someone studies English for 3 hours every Saturday. Another person studies for 20 minutes every day. At first, the first student feels more productive. 3 hours sounds impressive. But after a few weeks, they begin missing Saturdays because life gets busy. The second student keeps going. 20 minutes is easy to fit into almost any schedule. After a year, who has spent more time learning? And more importantly, who has built a stronger habit? Small actions are easier to repeat, and repeated actions create lasting results. Here's another useful English expression, little by little. Native speakers often say, little by little, you'll start noticing the difference. It's a simple phrase, but it's backed by psychology. One of the biggest mistakes people make is trying to change everything overnight. They say, from tomorrow, I'll wake up at 5, exercise every day, read 50 pages, eat perfectly, learn English for 2 hours, and never waste time again. It sounds inspiring. For about 3 days. Then reality arrives. They become tired, miss one habit, feel discouraged, and eventually stop altogether. The problem wasn't a lack of motivation. The problem was trying to build 10 habits at once. Successful people often do the opposite. They focus on one habit until it becomes natural. Then they add another, and another. Over time, these small habits begin supporting each other. Imagine someone who starts sleeping earlier. Because they're well rested, they wake up with more energy. Because they have more energy, they exercise. Because they exercise, they feel more focused. Because they're more focused, they work better. One small habit quietly improves many other areas of life. That's called a ripple effect. A small positive action creates bigger positive changes over time. Before we finish, here's a practical challenge. Choose one tiny habit that takes less than 5 minutes. It could be writing tomorrow's priorities before going to bed, reading 1 page of a book, learning 5 new English words, spending 10 minutes planning your day, cleaning your desk before starting work. Don't worry about doing more. Just make that one habit so easy that it's almost impossible to skip. Because productivity isn't built through one extraordinary day. It's built through hundreds of ordinary days, where small actions are repeated again and again. And one day, you'll look back and realize those tiny habits completely changed the way you work, learn, and live. Tip number 3. The hidden productivity killer, decision fatigue. Imagine waking up in the morning and having to make hundreds of decisions before lunchtime. What should I wear? What should I eat? Should I answer this email now or later? Should I check my phone? Should I start working or make another coffee? Should I finish this task or begin a new one? Most of these decisions seem small, but together, they quietly drain one of your most valuable resources, your mental energy. Here's an interesting question. Have you ever noticed that by the evening, even simple decisions can feel difficult? You stand in front of the refrigerator and can't decide what to eat. You know you should study English, but instead you keep scrolling on your phone. It's not always because you're lazy. Sometimes your brain is simply tired of making decisions. Psychologists call this decision fatigue. Here's a useful English expression. Save your energy. Native speakers use this expression when they mean don't waste your physical or mental energy on things that aren't important. For example, don't argue about something so small. Save your energy for what really matters. That's exactly what productive people do. They don't just manage their time. They manage the number of unnecessary decisions they make every day. Now here's something fascinating. Many highly successful people simplify parts of their daily routine. Former US President Barack Obama once explained that he limited simple choices, like what to wear, because he wanted to preserve his mental energy for more important decisions. Other leaders and entrepreneurs have followed similar approaches. The idea isn't that clothes don't matter, it's that your brain has limited attention and decision-making capacity throughout the day. So why spend it on things that don't really improve your life? Think about your own morning. If you spend 30 minutes deciding what to wear, another 20 minutes deciding what to eat, and another 15 minutes wondering where to begin, you've already used a surprising amount of mental energy before doing your most important work. Now compare that to someone who prepares the night before. Their clothes are ready. Their workspace is organized. Their first task is already written down. When they wake up, they don't need to decide. They simply begin. That's a huge advantage. Let's connect this to English learning. Imagine sitting down to study and asking yourself, should I watch a video? Maybe I should read a book instead. Or maybe I should learn vocabulary. Actually, maybe I'll start tomorrow. By the time you've finished deciding, you've spent more energy thinking about studying than actually studying. Now imagine something different. Every evening, you prepare tomorrow's English lesson. When you sit down, there's only one question left. Am I ready to begin? That simple habit removes unnecessary decisions. And removing unnecessary decisions makes taking action much easier. Here's another useful English expression: clear your mind. It means to remove distractions and unnecessary thoughts so you can think more clearly. For example, I like taking a short walk before work because it helps me clear my mind. Productive people don't try to remember everything. Instead, they create systems. They use calendars. They write to-do lists. They schedule important tasks. Not because they have poor memories, but because they don't want their brains carrying information that can be stored somewhere else. Every reminder you write down, every routine you create, and every decision you make in advance frees your mind to focus on meaningful work. So here's a simple challenge. Tonight, before you go to bed, prepare tomorrow. Choose your 3 most important tasks. Prepare your workspace. Decide when you'll begin. Remove anything that could distract you. Tomorrow morning, don't ask yourself, what should I do? Instead, sit down and start. Because productivity isn't only about working harder. Sometimes it's about making fewer decisions, so your best energy is available for the decisions that truly matter. Tip number 4. Stop chasing perfection. Start finishing things. Imagine 2 writers. The first writer spends 3 weeks working on the first page of a book. Every sentence has to be perfect. Every word must sound impressive. They keep editing, deleting, rewriting, and starting over. The second writer has a different approach. They write the entire first draft without worrying too much about mistakes. Is it perfect? Not at all. But at the end of the month, they have something the first writer doesn't: a finished manuscript. Now here's the question. Who is closer to publishing a great book? The answer is obvious, because you can't improve something that doesn't exist. One of the biggest enemies of productivity isn't laziness, it's perfectionism. Here's a useful English expression: done is better than perfect. You'll often hear this idea in the business world and among entrepreneurs. It means that finishing high-quality work is usually far more valuable than endlessly trying to make it flawless. That doesn't mean you should produce careless work. It means you shouldn't let perfection stop progress. Now, here's something interesting. Psychologists have found that many perfectionists aren't actually trying to create perfect work. They're trying to avoid making mistakes, or being judged, or feeling embarrassed. In other words, perfectionism is often driven by fear rather than excellence. Think about learning English. How many people refuse to speak because they're afraid of making grammatical mistakes? They wait until they feel ready. The problem is, that day almost never comes. Meanwhile, another learner speaks every chance they get. They make mistakes, they learn from them, and month after month, they become more fluent. Who improves faster? Usually, the one who's willing to sound imperfect. Here's another useful English expression: learn by doing. Native speakers use this expression to mean that real learning happens through action, not just preparation. For example, you can read 10 books about public speaking, but you'll really learn by doing. The same principle applies to productivity. Planning has value. Learning has value. Preparation has value. But eventually, you have to begin. Let's imagine you're starting a YouTube channel. You spend 6 months learning about cameras, lighting, editing, microphones, thumbnails, SEO. You know everything except what it feels like to publish a video. Another creator starts with simple equipment. Their first video isn't amazing. Neither is the second. But by the 50th video, their confidence, editing, storytelling, and presentation have improved dramatically. Why? Because experience became their teacher. Action produces feedback. Feedback produces improvement. And improvement produces excellence. That's how mastery is built. Not through endless preparation, but through repeated practice. Here's something else highly productive people understand. Every task has a point where the extra effort produces very little extra value. Imagine spending 30 minutes designing a presentation. Then imagine spending another 4 hours changing tiny details that almost nobody will notice. Were those 4 hours really necessary? Sometimes, yes, but often, no. Knowing when something is good enough is a skill. It allows you to move forward instead of becoming trapped in endless revisions. Before we finish, here's a challenge I'd like you to try. Choose one task you've been postponing because you want it to be perfect. Maybe it's writing an email, starting a project, recording your first English video, or having your first conversation in English. Today, don't aim for perfection. Aim for completion. Tell yourself, I'll improve it after it exists. Because a finished project can always be improved. An unfinished project never changes anyone's life. Remember this, perfection builds pressure. Progress builds confidence, and confidence grows every time you finish what you started. So stop waiting for the perfect moment. Stop waiting for perfect conditions. Start. Finish. Improve. Then repeat the process. Because productive people don't succeed by doing everything perfectly. They succeed because they consistently turn ideas into action. Tip number 5. Build systems, not willpower. Imagine 2 people trying to become more productive. The first person wakes up every morning hoping they'll feel motivated. Some days they do, some days they don't. When motivation disappears, their productivity disappears too. The second person doesn't depend on motivation. They follow a routine. They wake up at the same time. They know exactly what their first task will be. They've created an environment that makes good habits easy and distractions difficult. Who do you think accomplishes more over the course of a year? Almost always, the second person, because they rely on systems, not emotions. Here's a useful English expression: stick to the plan. Native speakers use this expression when they mean continue following your plan, even when you don't feel like it. For example, I wasn't motivated to study today, but I stuck to the plan. That's exactly what productive people learn to do. Now here's something many people misunderstand. They believe successful people wake up every morning feeling inspired. The reality is often very different. Successful people have days when they're tired, distracted, unmotivated, just like everyone else. The difference is that they don't ask themselves, do I feel like working today? Instead, they ask, what's the next step in my system? That small change in thinking makes a huge difference. Psychologists often talk about the power of environment. Your environment quietly influences your behavior every single day. Imagine placing a bowl of fresh fruit on your kitchen table. you're much more likely to eat it. Now imagine replacing it with cookies and chocolate. Without realizing it, your environment begins making decisions for you. The same principle applies to productivity. If your phone is beside you every time you work, you'll probably check it. If your desk is covered with distractions, your attention will constantly move from one thing to another. But if your workspace is clean, your phone is in another room, and your most important task is already waiting for you, staying focused becomes much easier. Here's another useful English expression. Make it easy on yourself. It means design your life so that making good decisions requires less effort. For example, I prepare tomorrow's breakfast the night before to make it easy on myself. That's not laziness, it's smart planning. Let's connect this to English learning. Many learners wait until they feel inspired. One day they study for 3 hours. Then, they don't study again for 2 weeks. Imagine instead that you decide to practice English every evening at 7 o'clock. Not because you always feel motivated, but because that's simply what you do. After a few months, studying no longer feels like a difficult decision. It becomes part of your identity. And identity is incredibly powerful. Instead of saying, I'm trying to become productive, you begin saying, I'm someone who finishes what they start. Instead of, I'm trying to improve my English, you begin thinking, I'm someone who practices English every day. Those may sound like small changes, but they completely transform the way you see yourself. And people naturally behave in ways that match the identity they believe they have. Before we finish today's episode, I'd like to leave you with one final thought. Imagine improving by just 1% every day. 1% doesn't sound impressive. In fact, it's almost impossible to notice from one day to the next. But weeks become months. Months become years. And those tiny improvements begin creating extraordinary results. That's how books are written, businesses are built, languages are learned, careers are developed, and meaningful lives are created. Not through one extraordinary effort, but through thousands of ordinary actions repeated consistently. So don't wait for the perfect mood. Don't wait for unlimited motivation. Don't wait until life becomes easier. Build a simple system. Protect your attention. Create small habits. Finish what you start. And trust the process. Because productivity isn't about doing more things. It's about doing the right things consistently until they become part of who you are. And if you can do that, you won't just become more productive. You'll become the kind of person who can achieve almost any goal you set.